Good evening, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world. And wow, do we have a special live stream for you tonight. And it's all about the novel coronavirus. And our two guests tonight you'll be meeting in a moment. We've got Gerhardt van Merwe, who's an expat South African currently living in China. And he's actually one of those affected by the quarantines. Hi, Jarko. Jarko, would you mind just copying questions for discussion later? If people have questions, they can just put them up into the side chat, and if you can copy them, and we'll pose them to the guest later in the show. And not only do we have Gerhardt, but we also have Philippe van Welbergen, who I think most people here know. He's a very, very experienced medical practitioner, and he's going to be talking to us about the virus, what to do, what not to do, so that knowledge is power, so that you don't get worried once the virus hits South Africa. And it's absolutely no question in my mind it is going to do that. But before we do that, I'd like to show you how the virus is spreading right now in China. And remember that there are cases of the virus now in Africa, Australia, right around the world, the US, etc., etc. Here we go. This is China right now. You can see Wuhan here. You can see that's where the concentration is. The over 1,000 cases is a very conservative figure. I'm hearing there closer to about 100,000 plus people affected by or infected by the virus in China right now, and it's just growing very, very fast. Now, one of the big points that really needs to be talked about here is the role of the media in all this, because the media really are fake news. They misreport, they don't get the facts right, and I'm just going to play you a short video clip just discussing this very point. Here we go.
This should be the highest level of alert at the WHO, and yet they have not determined that. They haven't announced that yet. Remember how quick they were to announce phase 5 and phase 6 pandemics when it was a hoax in the years past with bird flu and so on, and now when this is really spreading, they're not announcing it. So it really makes you wonder.
Am I right to say the global pandemic is here? I mean, it's exponential, it's large numbers, and it's all over the world. Isn't that the definition?
It is. It's a global pandemic. And by the way, the media in America is now complicit in the cover-up that may cost millions of people their lives. The media will get people killed. Right now, flights from China are arriving in U.S. cities every hour of the day to Los Angeles, Boston, New York. Flights are arriving to Vancouver and Toronto in Canada. Flights are going to London and Moscow and places all over the world. This is happening right now. It is spreading around the world. So even if China has their draconian lockdown and their military enforced quarantines, other countries, it's already too late, Alex. That's the big message today. This is already broken containment.
Okay, now that's just one perspective on the whole thing. Now, what I find very disturbing when it comes to South Africa is that they're taking the strategy of only quarantining people once they show the actual the effects of the novel coronavirus. So in other words, if someone comes from China and they look like they're fine, they look like they're healthy, they're just going to let them go and mix with the rest of the people in the country. countries like Australia and even the UK now, even though in this report they talk about letting people go, even in the UK now, people from China are now being quarantined. Give me a second, guys. Okay. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a short video clip which is talking about this very point about how Australia and New Zealand are treating this, and how the UK have actually now also started quarantining. So this information is from yesterday, so it's out of date, but the UK are now quarantining everybody who comes in. Here we go.
British Airways cancelling all flights to and from mainland China as a result of the coronavirus and the continual spreading of that infection. 132 people have lost their lives and many thousands have been infected. We're hearing from Australia and New Zealand that they will be quarantining those that have been in the region on Christmas Island, at least for the time being. Meantime, we're being told by Brits who are in Wuhan, that if they come back to the United Kingdom, they need to make their own way to the airport. They get to the UK, they need to make their own way home on public transport, and then stay in self-quarantine for 14 days.
Okay, just so you're aware, the UK is now quarantining people who fly in from China. This is the latest information that we're getting. I'm now going to get Philippe and Gerhardt online. Here we go. Hi Philippe, how are you?
Hi, great mate, great.
Good. Give me a second. I'm just going to get Gerhardt on as well. Okay, there we go. We're on our way with Gerhardt. Gerhardt's just coming through. Okay, just while we're waiting for Gerhardt, now we had a brief chat. Here he comes now. Okay, I'll just introduce you guys. Hi, Gerhardt.
Hey, hello, Uncle Scott. Hello, Philippe. How are you doing?
Hey, good. Good, man.
Hey.
What are you doing there?
Oh, nice to meeting you, sir. Yeah, I am Gerhardt. I'm the guy from China, so I heard we're going to do a fun live stream tonight, yeah?
Okay.
So.
Now, just to
cool.
Just to kick off the live stream, I'll start with you, Philippe. Tell us, what is a virus? How does it affect people? How does it impact people? The very basics of a virus, just so people can get their heads around. It's not a disease. What is a virus?
A virus is actually a borderline organism. It's not really live as such, and it basically uses your own structures, your own cellular structures to procreate. And there are different groups, there are DNA and RNA viruses, your own lymphatic system is the bit that normally sorts it out if there are problems with it. They're very tiny structures. When we start, they're not like bacteria. Yeah, they're not like normal cellular structures. In essence, they're sort of dead in a way. We are talking about if we get specific about the coronaviruses. These guys are not new. Yeah, they basically started off in the 1960s already, when they saw a whole pile of the buggers, and the first bunch basically caused the common cold, and then we started to progress with the coronaviruses to very dangerous ones, the acute respiratory distress syndrome ones. There was the SARS, then there was later the MERS. There is also another virus, which is the Zika virus, which came up and claimed quite a lot of people. and now we've got this one. So they basically get transferred, a lot of them get transferred through droplet infection. This one, the Wuhan, is a droplet infection one, which makes it so dangerous because it is an aerosol mist that you walk through that can stay airborne for quite a while. There are rumors around that even by touching people skin to skin, it gets transmitted. This particular virus, it doesn't. It cannot penetrate the skin barrier. It needs to go through via a mucous membrane, and that could be the eyes, it could be the nose, mouth, and that makes it very easy to transmit because we're forever rubbing our eyes and at our nose, at our mouth to deposit a viral load on your lips. You lick your lips, you swallow something, and hey presto, you've got your viral load inside you. But it needs a mucous membrane. It needs the wet bit, nose, mouth, eyes, to find a passage in. So there was a lot of fear about that by touching people's clothes and their skin. You now had transmitted it to you. Indirectly, yes, if you pick up a viral load from a tin in a shop or a trolley handle in a supermarket or shaking hands, you've laid the first cornerstone. Now it needs to find a way in, mouth, eyes, nose. So if it completes that passage, that's how it happened by touch. But it cannot penetrate a skin barrier, an intact skin barrier. So virae generally do not have a very long life. Once we start looking at an index, the first patients, quite a few of those guys are actually still alive with the Wuhan virus. What kills with this particular guy is something that we've seen before with the acute respiratory distress syndrome. That is a very nasty piece of work. If you have underlying conditions, the virus will weaken your immune system, and if you already have an immune system that doesn't work well, you're even more at risk. It is the inflammation that it causes that causes a cascade of problems, and where lungs are affected, those can be lethal. So a virus, for example, the RNA virus, which this one is, if we have a look at AIDS, for example, there is a reverse transcriptive viral group, and one of the things that is coming up now is that Johnson & Johnson produced a remedy to manage HIV/AIDS, post-COVID, and they're now looking at, because of the similarity, to see if it might help with this particular or form a building block in managing the novel corona, the Wuhan virus. It has no cell structure of its own, and it transmits via what we call vectors. And basically, our little soldiers to fight the damn thing are what I called the lymphocytes. So the more we manage our general health, the more resistance we have to a viral infection because of the inflammation that it causes and how we fight it. The interesting thing is there is some data that has come up. How many people exactly had underlying conditions when they were infected? It didn't really seem to make that much difference. But it picked also on the guys who didn't have underlying conditions. In that group, there were about 40 that were followed. So, we'll get to that.
Philippe, can I ask you just related to the immune system? In South Africa, we know there's a huge percentage of the black population who are carrying HIV/AIDS. Now, as a result, their immune systems are going to be down anyway. Is that going to be a complicating factor once the novel coronavirus comes into South Africa and starts spreading through the townships?
It can be, but not only them. Basically, anybody who is on immune system suppressants, people who've had transplants, people who have certain autoimmune diseases, who are on immune suppressants are very much at risk. Now, the natural ability to fight infections, to fight inflammations in this particular virus is critical, because the hard work and the survival story is what's going to happen when you get the acute respiratory distress syndrome, and you now need to be managed, and that opens a very different can of worms, really, because now you start looking at being hooked up to a positive-negative respirator, a mechanical respirator, and there are complications to keep you alive, to help you breathe, to keep you alive, because that inflammation basically it affects the whole of the lung. It's not like, it's not a localized inflammation of the lung. It actually affects the whole shebang, the whole lung is in it is. What happens is that the end bits where you pick up oxygen, the alveoli, you've got about 600 million of the bugs, they get a layer of a fluid around them, which makes the passage of blood that needs to be oxygenated and the ability to pick up blood, I'm trying to keep it simple, very difficult. And the ability to help causes complications as well. And what happens then is that to help you breathe with a respirator, which is where your survival is going to be at the end of the day, in essence, it causes something which is called shear stress. And when you have basic respirators, very primitive ones, you're basically looking at working what is called a large tidal volume. If you've got state-of-the-art equipment, that is different. And management of it is also different. And we have now moved to something which is called a low tidal volume. That has that basically assists those little guys who give you oxygen that you need. And the lack of oxygen is going to mess with your tissues, it's going to mess with your life at the end of the day. So by managing the ventilators, and we start getting it at low tidal volume protocols, we already shave off about 25% of mortality. The other problem is that because of this, the way we breathe is not very comfortable when we go for these low tidal volume stories, and we look at the partial pressure of carbon dioxide, and that makes us very uncomfortable. That goes up. So what we do then is we can induce paralysis, because if we are paralyzed and sleeping, we don't fight the ventilator. Now, that is an aspect in South Africa that may well be a very, very big problem. In the first place, do you have ventilators? Because basically everybody with acute respiratory disease syndrome will need a respirator. And I don't know how many of those damn things there are, and even if they're working. But once you start inducing paralysis, which again shaved off another 25% of mortality, you need nurses who are highly trained and monitoring that is very professional. Where you're going to get that in those volumes or at all is basically anybody's guess. And then there is another way we can deal with respirator stories, and that is, instead of having people flat on their backs, we can put them in a prone position on their side for the bulk of the day, 17, 19 hours a day, and they start feeling a lot more comfortable. And that decreases mortality again management of these people in hospital is going to be your biggest problem, and secondary infections, opportunistic infections, when they are very run down, when they are oxygen starved, and when they are not well managed, and that will or may well open the floodgates to mass mortality. A lot of people who've been exposed to corona, to the Wuhan, have not died. Yeah, the mortality rate is way lower than in MERS and SARS, way lower. The Zika was a major problem as well. It is not nearly as bad as what we have had. But the problem is how you're going to manage it. What staff do you have available? Your triage is going to be absolutely brutal. You know, who are you going to treat? How many beds do you have to assist these people? People with compromised immune systems, people on antiretrovirals, on retroviral drugs. They are in a bad place. There are also people who have other infectious diseases that are chronic in South Africa that are not well managed. You know, they can't get access to medication. They don't have access to competent doctors, competent nurses, competent healthcare specialists. In a weak population, this is very, very serious. Where are you going to accommodate them? You know, how are you going to isolate them? How are you going to feed these people? Where are you going to get the medication? Where are you going to get the fluids to hydrate them? Yeah. When we have a look at, everybody's talking about Ebola. Ebola was basically around for a long time. It actually Ebola belongs to the same group as these coronaviruses, by the way. It used to wipe out entire villages in Central Africa, but it didn't spread because the villages were separated by very long distances. So survivors or people who were sick and on the move didn't quite make it to the next village and didn't infect anybody there. It was also thought to only infect the animals. It didn't. It actually came from bats. Belgian guy was infected. They traced him. He was the index case. He collapsed in hospital. He was transported to a hospital because he felt ill after a visit to a cave with a group of his colleagues. He scratched the walls of the cave, which had sharp minerals. It wasn't a bite. Sharp minerals which had matter from the bats, and he picked up this Ebola virus, and it totally and utterly destroys every single cell there is. It's called crashing. It spread even into Europe. It's treated then as a different disease. One of them is, for example, Marburg. Marburg is a town in Germany where Ebola virus surfaced, and it was then named after the town, but essentially it was Ebola. Very few people died. It basically switched itself off. And this is one of the bits that we don't understand with these typical viruses. Why do they activate? And why do they switch themselves off? And why do they destroy their host? Parasites, bacteria, don't really want to destroy a host. But these guys destroy hosts. And we need to actually give them a hit. And I think the quarantine exercises that they're running in China are absolutely on the money, as uncomfortable as it is. It is the way to stop spreading infection and to compartmentalize it. How are you going to do that in South Africa? I have no idea, because there is no competent police force. Yeah. The army is ditto, so how are you going to compartmentalize and assist people when you don't allow them to move about and cross-infect all sorts of other people all over the place? It's beyond me. I don't know how they're going to do it. Brutal as it may seem, it is really the way to deal with these infections. Make sure that it cannot spread. What is already on the boil is on the boil, and you need to deal with it as it comes. Yeah. But to prevent the spread is another story.
Now, Philippe,
I
can I just interrupt here? Now, you've talked about it turning itself on and turning itself off. The other issue here is, can't this virus mutate and get even more dangerous during the progression of it going through people?
It does that all the time. That is the biggest problem in trying to get a vaccine going for a virus. Viruses adapt. Viruses mutate. So by the time you have isolated the structure of a virus and now you start trying to mess with its such structure as it has, it adapts and it mutates.
Right.
Which means that after 7 months or a year before you get to human trials, what you're busy with may no longer be relevant, and you must start all over again, which is one of the problems, for example, with the flu vaccines. They change every year, and if you get it wrong, the vaccine will not assist, will not help, will not protect.
Right. Now,
the other essence of a virus is that the virus, while it's live and it messes with your immune system, and it causes inflammations and all sorts of other damage, and it messes with cells that you have. Once the virus is dead, once you kill it, in many varieties it is actually very toxic in its dead state as well. So you need to eliminate that as well. The toxicity is very high of these viruses.
Right. Now,
But the particular one, I don't know how you're going to cope in South Africa with a highly specialized and advanced nursing care and medical care that you're going to need in volume and in capacity. I don't know. And without that, you're going to have a mass death.
Yeah. Now, Philippe, I just want to speak to Gerhardt for a little while. We've just touched on China. Now, Gerhardt, you are living in the middle of this. Tell us about your situation.
Correct,
tell us your situation right now in China. Just tell people exactly where you live in China, the prevalence of the virus throughout the region that you're in, what people are saying, how they're feeling, the fears they have. Just give us a general feel about what's happening in China right now.
Right, I got it, Uncle Scott. First of all, I want to say good evening to all the viewers in South Africa and around the world. And Mr. Felipe, is it Dr. Felipe?
Doctor.
Sorry, I didn't catch the beginning. Hey, Dr. Felipe and Uncle Scott.
It will be fine. It will be just fine.
All right. Anyway, good evening to everyone. Yeah, so I am in China. I'm in a city called Qingdao. Now, this is in Shandong province. This is far from Wuhan, the city where I'm staying. However, there are a lot of infections in my province and in my city. So that makes Qingdao also a little bit dangerous to stay in at the moment. But to get back to Uncle Scott's question, what am I going through? What am I feeling right now? Well, we basically bought food for a month in preparation already because my wife saw something coming, and she was the one, and she's Chinese, so by the way, she was the one talking to me daily, telling me, hey, listen, this is not as small as what you think it is, because I was actually kind of, nah, it's not that big deal, I just hear about a virus. And then actually it started to hit me as shops started to close down, as, you know, news was spreading around on WeChat. We use WeChat here in China. And also as I, you know, updated my knowledge or the daily news, I saw actually it was real. Luckily, we bought a lot of food, and it was not that bad in the beginning. For example, they told us, please don't go outside, just wear your face mask, everything will be fine. There were a lot of shops open like 2 days literally ago, or let's say 3 days ago. And as the days went by, I started noticing, hey, listen, there's another shop that closed down. There's less people in the street. The infected confirmed cases are going up. We cannot buy anything online anymore. And 3 days later, where I am now, we are basically quarantined in our community. What this means is I can literally not go out or come in to my community. If I want to do so, I need to be scanned at the gate, like take my temperature. They have like this little modern temperature check guns, if you want to call it that. They scan us, you can go out and they monitor you where you go, and when you come back you need to be checked again before you can get in. But it's getting more tight to a point where they are not allowing us to go out anymore. So around me shops are closed down. To be kind of honest with you guys, it's 100% closed down. I've got one 7-Eleven shop still open like next door from my community, but the supplies in the shop are definitely running out. You can see people are buying it crazy because they prepare for this whole thing coming. Mentally, I'm a little bit, I'm so annoyed at this moment because I've been staying in my home for like 2 weeks, and you know, it can carry on for another month just being in your home, you know. And China homes, as you know, it's not like in South Africa. We stay like in apartments, and you only have so much space. So it kind of gets to me now, you know, being stuck in my own apartment. And you know, you play games, but you can play so long. You watch TV, but you can watch so long. You do a little bit YouTube, but you can do so much about. You can do so long. So it's starting to affect us mentally. My wife as well, because she's reading the news updates constantly, and this is driving her crazy because we have a baby here, and it makes her more, you know, a mother's safety zone. She drives me crazy with all these updates, but it's affecting her as well. Scared. If you want to ask me, am I scared? Yes, definitely I'm scared. As Dr. Philippe explained, hey, look, it's not that dangerous as the SARS virus, but you guys need to bear in mind that you don't know who's carrying the virus around you. That is what makes it so dangerous in China right now. And it feels so weird, guys. I can explain to you in this kind of way, right? If you walk outside, even in your own community downstairs, to take your dog for a quick pee-pee or something, and people walk in your direction, you will literally, you know, turn around and walk away from them. So it's like literally people fearing each other, you know, in the streets downstairs. It's like everyone is walking 2 meters apart from each other and walking, you know, it's kind of weird to see this happening. And as this goes on, I just feel it gets more, you know, intense among people. At the moment in my community, I must say we are in a well-established and well-managed community. The people are okay, and you know, you don't hear anyone walk downstairs or go down the elevator, but it's not an issue yet. But I know some communities, like down the street from me, that didn't really prepared for if all shops close down. And I think if that's going to happen, then definitely there's going to be a lot of tension around me, where we need to start lock the doors, if you understand what I mean. But for now, I think it is, it's going okay. It's just more of a mental thing. However, I want to add to this as well that I must say that a little bit relief on myself is the way China is handling this whole thing. I've never seen a country in my life that can build 2 hospitals with over 1,000 beds in each hospital in like 7 days. Amazing. And that gives me, that gives me a little bit hope as well, and you know, make my whole irritation of staying in this quarantined room all the time a little bit better, because you know, you guys can actually go check on YouTube a live update via China Daily, how they construct these hospitals. It's insane to see what these guys are doing. And not only that, they seriously release data on a transparent way to the people in China and also in the world. So I'm this kind of guy that if I see the updates, I only look at the confirmed cases and I look at the cured cases. Or not, sorry, you don't call it cured cases, you call it like recovered cases. So that is the 2 numbers I check daily. Like 3 days ago, I saw more recovered data coming out, numbers, but as of from today, the death toll went up, the confirmed cases went way up until above 6,000, and the recovered cases are staying stable now. So that also, brings me down a little bit and makes me kind of frightened. But to sum it all up, Uncle Scott and Dr. Philippe and viewers, it's not an easy thing what we're going through here. Look, like Dr. Philippe says, it's not that dangerous. I must confess, China is doing a fantastic job. But as an expat living through this at this moment, I can tell you guys it's not that easy to go through this whole thing and actually see this firsthand.
Yeah.
Although we're in our apartments, but we do see the Chinese TV and we do see updates in our WeChat and stuff like that. So yeah, it's not a fun thing. It's not what I planned for when I came to China, to be kind of honest.
Now, we've got well over 250 people watching us right now, just for the record. Now, one of the issues that I really see impacting South Africa, and I'm just posing this to Gerhardt at the moment, then I'm going to ask Philippe about this. One of the big issues I see, and what I'm hearing from reports, is that people are in infection before they actually show symptoms of having the virus. So in other words, they might pick up the virus, and after 2 days, they then become infectious. So if they pass on the virus to someone else who then picks it up, so it's like a hidden virus. It doesn't present itself through coughing and you feeling sick and stuff like that until about 14 days. Now, that period of time, the people are infectious and they're actually carrying the virus before they get the symptoms. That to me is a killer. Now, you can imagine that in places like South Africa, where they're talking about only quarantining people who show the symptoms. So if you've got a plane load of people coming in from China, and you've got 2 people who've got the symptoms, and they let everybody else go off, they can infect a whole lot of people around them, and that's how it could just explode right through the country. What are your thoughts on that, Gerhardt?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, Uncle Scott. I totally agree with you. Just a few points I want to make on top of this. Bear in mind, what makes it more dangerous over here in China right now is we are currently in the flu season because it's middle winter here. So people mistake of having a simple little flu with actually carrying the coronavirus. That's the first point I want to make. That makes it a little bit more dangerous than what people think. Another thing is, Uncle Scott, if year end comes, like China year end, like late January, February, a lot of expats go back to South Africa because they need to renew visas, they need to renew passports and stuff like that. So this time of year, a lot of South Africans are going back to South Africa. So that's a dangerous part from what Wim is trying to say. Like, you can carry the virus, you don't cough yet, you don't have any symptoms, but you carry the virus, right? To add on Wim's, or to answer your question, or to just give my 2 cents, I totally think it's dangerous that people don't know they have the virus and the country will freely let them in the country, and just think we're going to do a quick scan on you, or if you cough, we're going to put you in quarantine. That for me is the dumbest idea, because by the time you actually figure out that you are sick, you've been in touch with how many people, like thousands of people, including your family, and your family at the same time has been, in touch with other people. So I just think it's very stupid if people think, once you cough, then you are infected, and then you can put you in quarantine. There needs to be drastical systems put in place, especially like in a country like South Africa, to prevent this thing from spreading out. And that's where I give China a thumbs up, because these guys are on it. They quarantined us like, boom, in our communities. Like I told them, over the course of 3 days, you understand, I was like walking outside, obviously with my face mask and stuff.
Right.
But the next moment, everything was just so strict. And the people stick with it because they follow the instructions of the government. Where in South Africa, a lot of people don't really follow that.
Yeah.
They don't really care. So it will make it worse. And then the last point I want to make is these face masks that we use over here. People don't really get it, but it's very intimidating seeing people walking on the streets with these things on. Especially the surgical ones, the white ones that looks like doctors in surgery rooms. It's very intimidating. So I don't even think there will be some South Africans that care about using these masks in the streets. And that is also a big danger in South Africa, that the virus can spread. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on it. To sum it up, Uncle Scott, it's dangerous that you don't know you have it, and you can't go and say, if people cough and then sneeze and you show some symptoms, okay, quickly come for a consultation at the doctor. Okay, we think you've got the coronavirus, let's quarantine you. That's a bad idea, especially for a country like South Africa, Uncle Scott.
Yeah, thank you very much, Gerhardt. Good input. Now over to you, Philippe. On that same point, talking about that period where people actually pick up the virus and they're they're infectious, etc., etc. Would you like to address that from a medical perspective?
Yeah, it's actually not that uncommon because, well, if you AIDS is a retrovirus, yeah, but look at the vast numbers of people who were infected and transmitting the virus, and were totally asymptomatic. We accept it there. There is a bit of a hiccup in this regard, and I think I totally agree with you when it comes to hats off big time for the way these guys in China handled it. It's unbelievable. It's superb, absolutely superb. And they were on the right track. Isolate, make sure that people don't move about, and try and compartmentalize it as much as possible. That is right on the money, and they did an outstanding job. When we asked for, I wouldn't ask, the States, Britain have asked the Chinese authorities, health authorities, for their records and proof that the transmission takes place whilst people are totally asymptomatic, while they're not showing signs. For some reason, the Chinese authorities have said we don't want to give it. Now, why they don't do that, I don't know. Quite frankly, if the Chinese tell me, because they are very, very credible and highly competent people when it comes to medicine and a lot of other fields, if they say, listen guys, don't get pedantic, and if we tell you that that is the way it is, that's the way it is, because we're on the ground and that's what we've seen and that's what we publish, don't get pedantic with us now and ask us to prove our case. If that is the reason behind it, I can understand it. I don't believe that the Chinese health authorities would fudge records and lie to us, particularly because of the stance that they've taken to try and protect basically people worldwide with their conduct. I don't believe that they're being pedantic or being silly, and I certainly don't believe that they're fudging records and making it all up. I know of quite a few situations where people are asymptomatic and transfer viral loads. And the other thing is, what do you call asymptomatic? You know, the odd cough, the odd sneeze, when there is a viral load and it gets into the right conduit, it will do its job. My problem with the South African model, if you want to call it that, is that there actually isn't one. And the Chinese authorities got it right. Their idea is don't get sick, don't get infected. The only hope you have to walk away from all of this completely scot-free is not to get infected in the first place, which is why they're putting such huge effort into compartmentalizing population groups. And if one gets infected somewhere, that is one thing a whole lot of others won't. It's all you really can do, and they're doing that very well. To wait for people to board planes and to exit planes or ships or transfer goods, which is what I understood happened with you as well, where they refused to give supplies all of a sudden, because there could be a viral load clinging to the supplies, to tins, to packets, to whatever. you handle that, you bring it to your mouth, to your eyes, to your nose, you're now infected, thank you very much. So they said we are not sending anything around that could possibly harbor a viral load. The South African model is, if we get someone who sneezes, we'll quarantine them. They've been doing that for years. When you get into Oliver Tambo or Shaka in Durban, there is somebody there with a thermometer pointing at you to see if you are running a temperature or not. That's not limited to what's happening now. They've been doing that for ages. Yeah. When that happens, you're a minute late and $1 short, and all these people who came off that plane will bombshell. Currently, we are looking here at 1,500 people, close to 1,500 people that we know of who enter the UK from China, who may well be infected, who may not be infected, we don't know. They signed an agreement that they would quarantine themselves in their home. You can't really effectively do that because you've got friends visiting, you've got children going in and out, you've got a wife, a partner, a spouse going in and out of shops, buying things, getting into crowded centers, people getting onto a tube which is packed, a train which is packed, a bus which is packed. How do you auto-quarantine? How do you quarantine yourself? These 1,500 people are missing. We have no idea where they are. We can't find them. So to bring them back into the fold and stick them in an army camp and say, guys, let's see what happens and we will release you as and when we can, that's not going to happen. We've got 1,500 potential problems floating around here. The South African model, such as it is absolutely silly. I would not have any aircraft coming in to South Africa from China, from infected areas. I would restrict cargo, and you may have seen how the Chinese authorities deal with infections or possible infections by spraying things down. I would spray cargo down, containers down, inside and out, before I would release them. There is no such plan. Yet, if that has gone overnight, there is a viral content on tins or packages or boxes or contents that can infect people. So the South African model is, in my opinion, way short of the mark. Yeah, you would do anything and everything and make sure that people do not get infected. Once they are, you've got a huge problem. You've got with the health situation, they can't even cope with what they have. How are they going to cope with the sudden influx of possibly hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of people when they can't even cope with 50 or 60 who arrive every day? It's beyond me. The management of the complication of the inflammation, which is the respiratory distress syndrome, acute respiratory distress syndrome, severe acute respiratory distress syndrome. That is a story that they don't have wards, they don't have beds, they don't have clean wards, they don't have clean facilities, they don't have doctors, they don't have nurses, they don't have the equipment, they don't have the respirators. So these people are basically, actually, if they succumb, there's no way to treat it. You can't treat this respiratory problem. You've got to let it run its course. You cannot treat, there is no cure for it. You cannot treat it. You can prevent it, what they're trying to do. You cannot treat it. And if you can't give supportive treatment when people present with complications, with lung infections, respiratory infections, you're too late. And I don't think that South Africa, and I wonder even if Britain could come close to what the Chinese are doing and the level at which they are working. I don't see it here, and I certainly do not see it in South Africa. If there is an outbreak in South Africa, and it's positive, I would keep my children at home, I would keep myself at home, I would keep my spouse at home, I would have supplies to ride it out until there is a plan made, because you're not going to get any assistance in hospitals, not even in private ones. They're going to be totally overwhelmed. Each patient is going to need a respirator. There aren't any. It's over. So you're going to go in, if you can find a clean hospital bed and you're in isolation, you get that kind of barrier nursing, if there is any. You're waiting to die or you recover naturally. One of two. That's it.
Now, Philippe, you've raised a really interesting point, and I want to get back to Gerhardt about this, because this is really the critical advice that I think we're giving people who are listening, and that is the idea that you've got to isolate yourself from the potential infection. I mean, that is really what we're saying. Now, to do that, you've got to prep. Now, Gerhardt, you were saying that your wife's bought a month's worth of food and supplies and stuff like that. Can you tell us what you guys have actually prepped with? What have you done? What have you bought? Just take us through that so people listening get an idea as to what they should be buying now before the infection comes into the country.
Absolutely. I listened to Dr. Philippe, and he's got really, really good points that he made right there. I just want to add to that I totally agree that a country like, he speaks about the UK, but if I speak about South Africa, there's no way in life that the South African government can do what the Chinese government did to help these people till this far. So it is really dangerous. And yeah, to get back to Uncle Scott's question is, we did prep work. In the beginning, I was like, nah, it won't be that bad. It won't be that bad. But my wife was actually pushing me, and she said, hey, listen, let's get stuff done now. Now, bear in mind, we went through a Chinese New Year. So there were a lot of people gone, luckily, on holidays. And we took the opportunity and we bought a ton of food. So what we did was we bought a lot of rice, oils to cook. We don't have a lot of meat. We've got some chicken and stuff in the fridge, which were bought before this breakout, at least. But we got a lot of dry foods like canned food, rice, noodles, stuff like that. And we got gallons and gallons of water, to be honest. We bought about 50 of that big 5-liter waters that's stacked in my little baby's room at the moment. Because the thing here in China, where South Africa's got advantage, is we cannot drink water from the tap. We need to get water in these bottles. So we stacked ourselves with bottles of water, and the main thing we did was, and luckily we did it, we need to buy gas to make food in our homes here in China, and you can only buy it like in small shops. It's normally like cellular shops and stuff like that. And we went and we bought like 5 months of gas just for in case. And luckily we were lucky because the next day the shop closed down. So I don't know what other people are going to do when they run out of gas, but we took care of our utilities, the water, the lights. We got everything set up for a month at least. We've got food for a month because we hope in a month's time things will get better. After that, we are a little bit screwed. Then we'll have to kick into survival mode and make plans. But for now, we are totally fine. And obviously a lot of baby stuff. We got a lot of baby stuff because we can't take the baby outside. We can't buy diapers. We can't buy nothing as such. So basically my baby's room is a storage room at this moment, and there's stuff that can help us through a month. But yeah, Uncle Scott, after this month, if things are not better and they put my city under quarantine so that we can't go out of the city, I can tell you guys, then we are pretty much screwed, because what this means is they can't bring food into the city. And I'm living in a city with 12 million people. So by that time, things will go a little bit south, if you understand what I mean. But for now, my city is not under quarantine as just yet. But shops are closing down, and we are fine for a month. And the reason we did it for a month is because we strictly quarantined ourselves in this apartment. So yeah, none of us are going to work, and we will not go back to work until it's been cleared by the government that it's safe to return to work. So that's another problem we sit with. We don't even know if they're going to pay our salaries. There was rumors that they said for the first month they will make plans on paying people's salaries, but after that there's a new law that kicks in on your contracts and stuff like that. So you don't only worry about your food, you need to worry about money as well. So if guys can start preparing themselves, I know money doesn't mean nothing if there's no food, but if you need to get out of, let's say, Joburg real quick, or get out Pretoria or wherever, you need a bit of bucks in your back pocket. So I will recommend get a little bit money where you can access it quick. A lot of dry foods, canned food, water, and if you have kids, obviously kids stuff. Utility is very important for us, because if you're going to get yourself quarantined in your own home, you need electricity. You need internet. You need this kind of stuff to know what's going on around you, because you are inside the room. So, yeah, that's what I would recommend is really important.
Now, just getting back to the money side, because I think this is a very critical area. Am I right in suggesting that people should not depend on credit cards? They should actually have physical cash on them? Because
absolutely, Uncle Scott. Because the reason I say it, sorry for interrupting you. Look, these guys are in trouble now in China. I just want to make it clear. These guys have been arrested, but there was a short supply on these face masks before people knew that the virus can come through the eye, right?
Right.
So a lot of people only had the face masks. They relied on the face masks, and it was sold out like overnight when the coronavirus story broke. So some people actually sold these masks on the street, obviously for a little bit incentive, for a little bit more money that is supposed to be.
Yeah.
They've been arrested, by the way, but you get these people, especially in serious situations. It helps you because you get your face mask, although they rip you off, but you can get it there and then. So you cannot go and swipe your card with this guy. You need physical cash to pay the dude and get your stuff done. So, and I'm sure there will be people trading among each other if there's really, I'm talking about if there's like real quarantine going on and things go south and there's no food and things just go haywire. I'm sure people will trade among each other at the end of the day, especially in a country like South Africa.
Yeah, now I've seen videos of empty shelves in China, in shops, where there's absolutely nothing left. Everything's been cleaned out. And the danger of not prepping now, if you're in South Africa, is, let's say the coronavirus hits South Africa and it's now a panic stations, and you go to your local shop and all the shelves are empty because everybody's beaten you to it. That is really something that people need to be aware of.
Absolutely, Uncle Scott. And if you look at if you look at a country like South Africa, people are already breaking into houses and killing each other over stuff, for nitty-gritty stuff. So just imagine if there's some serious problems heading South Africa's way, and it depends on food. I think things will go crazy. Seriously, my simple little mind tells me, and I'm sure everyone can agree with me on this point, if things goes all the way south in South Africa, then there's chaos if you are not prepared, definitely.
Yeah. Now, Philippe, your views on this?
Buy toilet paper. Lots of toilet paper.
And also hand sanitizers.
You have no idea what happens when you don't have any. You want it. All fun aside. What I would recommend is that you try and improve your immune system as best you can. Have a look at it this way. When there is a flu epidemic and there is a family, say 3-4 people, one may get flu and the other 3 don't. Why? Or 3 might be knocked out with flu and 1 doesn't. Why? Immune system. Work on it before it's under threat. In fact, you should always try and maintain a good one, a healthy one. You can get one of the most effective things to help you is actually the humble vitamin C, the very simple vitamin C. You can take that in very large doses 3-4 grams a day, you know that you're going to the max dose that it applies to you personally when your stool goes soft. You reduce it a little bit and the stool firms up again. You cannot really overdose on it, but it has a lot of actions which in part are understood, in part not understood. But for example, the way they affect cells to stop a virus from penetrating it is understood. It even has an application in cancer management, oncology. The other thing that is a very interesting, also very cheap method of doing things is iodine. There is a form of iodine which you can buy should be able to buy in health shops, which again has a very strong antiviral action. Again, it's cheap. You just drop in a glass of water a day, and it has a huge impact on your immune system. The way it opposes viral penetration of cells and lymphocytes. What it does. Now, I would invest in a lot of tins in South Africa, because tins don't really have an expiry date. Even if there is one on there, it doesn't really affect it. If it's sealed and not damaged, it's good to go. Rice, beans, dried rice, dried beans, very good sources of proteins and food. In South Africa, you have another problem, and that is the blackouts, the load shedding, where you may stock a freezer and you may stock your fridge, but if it goes down and it goes down for 12 hours or more, or people who are supposed to man what is left of the electricity system cannot go to work or are dead, are finished, then your load shedding may well become total, and then whatever you've got stored in your deep freeze and in your fridge is of no use to you anymore. Water, I agree you should get. When I was last in South Africa, which is only a few months ago, we bought very good water purifiers. One is called the Life Straw, and there is another one which also stops viruses in water, waterborne viruses. It may come down to the point where you have to purify your own water when it comes to drinking water, as you guys in China already do. To have that ability is priceless. And those things, I think, for the Life Straw, we bought one each, which was, I think, £10 each. And the other one was a little bit more expensive. I think it was 20 or 30 something pounds. They are priceless, because without potable water, you're not going anywhere. If you do not have a nut allergy, that is an important consideration. You have no idea how nutritious the humble peanut butter is. Peanut butter will give you a huge number of very useful calories. A big jar of peanut butter, and you eat a spoon of those a day, a small tablespoon a day, will give you a massive number of calories. Tins of fish, sardines, pilchards, very good source of protein, and you can keep those things. They don't take a lot of space, but you can keep those things for a very, very, very long time. And in South Africa, once the pawpaw hits the fan, and there is no supply, or partial supply, or supply is intercepted because people are getting sick in townships, and it's already the case anyway with all the plunder on the roadside. Resupply may already be an issue, maybe a very, very serious issue. If you can't keep your family on a reasonable daily calorie supply for about 2 weeks to a month, you're being very silly. And if all is well, all you really do is use up the stock of tins that you have and replace them. But no one is going to look after you there. No one. You do it, or no one does. And if you button down, you've heard it already, baby doesn't get out of the house. When you do button down, no one gets into your house. No family, no friends, no neighbors. Dog gets out and wanders around. Dog does not get back inside.
Yeah,
it's
basically
harsh.
trust no one.
Yeah, if people want to talk to you, Skype. They want to see you. But no one walks in. No one. No one, because you have no idea if they're in that asymptomatic phase and are already infectious, and here they come inside saying nothing wrong with me. Well, really? How do you know? No one knows. And that's basically a leak from the book of the Chinese government. They are right on the money there. Do not get exposed to the virus. Lock yourself in a safe environment. Clean everything there is. If you go and push a supermarket trolley, get a wipe. Wipe the handles. When you buy stuff off the shelf, if somebody sneezes, that basically that aerosol, that spray, travels 10 feet easily. It will attach to anything. You pick it up. It won't go through the skin barrier on your hands. You put your hands near your mouth, or you take something to eat, you put it in your mouth. Now it is inside you, and it's going to do what it does. Yeah. Clean every single thing that you have in your emergency stash. Wipe it down, clean it thoroughly. Clean it very, very, very thoroughly. Don't bring anything in. Same goes for your clothes. The only way to survive this, should it really become a serious threat, is not to get it. There is no other way. There is no treatment. There is supportive treatment which you cannot get in South Africa. The equipment doesn't exist. The hospital doesn't exist. The hospitals don't exist. And the staff don't exist. And they do exist, but in very small numbers. You're on your own when that happens. If someone should get sick in your family, it may not be the coronavirus. It may be anything else. Have a little quarantine facility in your house set aside, a room where that person is and stays. Because if it is bad news and they infect you, you're all in trouble. And you can actually assist in management. You're not going to get any help in a hospital. There are no respirators. You're going to need a respirator. You're going to need trained staff. It is the only thing, if you get that respiratory distress syndrome, that severe acute respiratory distress syndrome, the respirator is going to keep you alive. And even on the respirators, 40 to 50% of people die. They do not survive the time on the respirator, unless what I mentioned earlier, these improved respirator, mechanical respirator management protocols are known and are actually applied. We're going to get that in South Africa. You may have to close down what the army does in China. You may have to do yourself. You may have to close down your suburbs and not let people in. The police aren't going to do it. The army isn't going to do it. There is not going to be any supervision there unless you do it yourself and you close down the street with everybody as well, and you basically help each other avoid exposure. That is your salvation. There is no treatment. There is no treatment. And by the time you have isolated one or two people and you've got a whole bunch on the move and you've got the population of a township which is immune compromised, also infected or in danger, and they don't have supplies. You don't want them to come and steal supplies from you, but you don't want them to bring their dark passengers along as well. You want them out. You're going to have to do your own quarantine procedures in South Africa and be absolutely rigorous about it. You're not going to get help from the police. You're not going to get help from the army. They're incompetent. It's as simple as that. There are good police officers around. They are a minority. There are possibly a bunch of decent army guys around as well. What I've seen of army performance is sad compared to what it used to be. Similarly with the police, they are going to be so overwhelmed dealing with day-to-day crime when there is an outbreak of problems. They're not going to be able to look after you. You're going to have to do it yourself. The more you can button up, the more you can prevent having to go to population concentration centers, shopping centers, malls, hyper problems with fuel stations, the safer you are. If you can button it up and survive, it's not expensive. You can basically get a nutritious meal with a calorific value that you can easily survive on just for a couple of rand. Yeah, as I said, for example, if you can tolerate it, if you don't have a nut allergy, they're very dangerous. Peanut butter. There was a nutritious substance formulated by Gift of the Givers. You might want to note that. They actually took Gifts of the Givers, it was like a peanut butter, but a very small portion, a spoonful of the stuff, basically gave you the calorific requirement for the day. And they took that to countries in Africa that were very severely affected by storms and floods, and also AIDS and disease, and kept people alive on that. I don't remember what that stuff is called, but it was outstanding. I don't know if you can buy it. Water purification, water purification means, and again, it sounds stupid, but you have no idea how bad you feel when you don't have toilet paper.
Okay, now I just want to say to everybody watching, we've got about 300 people watching at the moment. Thank you for being part of our live stream, and to our moderators, Michaela and Jarko and the others, thank you so much for taking the questions. And I've got a couple of questions here that I'm going to pose to Philippe now. I think you've just answered the one from Peter Denneker, who said, is corona curable? And I think the answer is no, but we'll get to that in a second. And Anna asked for Philippe, are people using cortisones that also used to suppress the immune system? Okay, over to you, Philippe.
Yeah. Yes, and they basically have a very strong anti-inflammatory action. Yeah, cortisones, also with lung infections, are routinely given, and they do have a strong anti-immune action. But if you don't take them, you may also have problems. Yeah, you've got to stay with what you have, but you can improve your immune system through nutrition safely. If you have Crohn's disease or ulcers or a number of reasons why you would get cortisone, you may have to continue with those. Yeah, stopping those can be dangerous, but they are not going to be your friend when it comes to viral management.
Right. Now, Gerhardt, over to you for a second.
Yes, sir.
Now, you've been in China for 5 years. Okay, so
That's correct, yeah.
You know the Chinese lifestyle, how they live, how they interact and stuff like that. Now, just because I have absolutely no doubt the coronavirus is going to come to South Africa. And as Philippe says, I have no doubt the South African government won't know how to handle it, and they're going to totally screw up. Give people a picture of how something like this actually impacts the community in China, as it is right now for you.
Sure, Uncle Scott, that is huge because, okay, to make it more worse is we were in Chinese New Year, so that added on top of the whole thing. Chinese people go home once a year. They work in big cities, save up money, and then they go to their hometowns once a year. It's the biggest migration in the world, as you all know, if it gets to Chinese New Year. With this whole breakout, the people were stranded, even in the cities where they live in. Now, you get some people that don't really own houses and apartments here. They rent it just throughout that time being, so contracts end. Their contracts ends on the apartments, and they need to go back to the hometowns and re-rent apartments. So this whole thing screwed up people's finances, number one. It screwed up them mentally. It screwed up the whole Chinese New Year, to be quite honest. It's a disaster New Year, obviously, and a sad New Year for the Chinese people. And also small businesses are being impacted so badly because, during Chinese New Year, these small businesses make up the most money that they make throughout the whole year. This is their December season, where they make money. And obviously they haven't made any money during this time because nobody bought off of them. So these people are in struggle. Schools are in trouble now because they need to get back to school, so they're going to fall behind on curriculums and exams and all of that stuff. There's so many that I can tell you guys that impact the whole community where I'm living in. But I think I'm going to leave it right there for obvious reasons that I don't want to speak too much out about it, if you guys understand. But that's pretty much, you can see it's hurting the people, financially wise, mentally wise, and even scheduling your life. You understand, the whole planning for the new year is chaos at the moment. And like I say, a big thing I want to stress on is small businesses in China. That is how China operates. Small businesses make up maybe more of the half of the money coming into China. These guys are hurt really bad by this coronavirus throughout obviously the Chinese New Year, and obviously they can't get new stock to carry on after this thing, calms down for a little bit. So there's going to be a backlog of waiting to get your stock, and it really impacted the people bad, and it's sad to see that, Uncle Scott, really sad. Myself, I'm being impacted because I don't even know if I'm going to get my salary after 1 month from now, or they're going to, I don't even know if I'm going to get my full salary yet, to be quite honest. So yeah, it's a big thing, and I think I'd rather don't get me wrong, viewers, don't crucify me for this, but I'm just being blatantly honest to you guys here. I would rather stay here in China facing this thing than staying in South Africa facing this virus and crisis.
I totally agree with you. Now, just while I'm addressing the folk watching, below this video you'll see I've got a direct link to Gerhardt's YouTube channel. Now, Gerhardt is posting videos up there which are basically about what's happening in China. So please do consider subscribing to his channel. I'll be leaving that link.
Thank you so much.
I'll be leaving that link below the video so that anyone who wants to subscribe and follow Gerhardt can do that. Now, getting back to you,
Scott. I was just thinking, a question about cortisone.
Yeah.
There are two things people must understand with viral infections. There isn't a single antibiotic, not one, that can actually treat a virus. Not one. Doesn't exist. Cortisone is basically immune suppressant, and it generally weakens immune systems. It also makes people more susceptible to microbial infections and viral ones. So if you are on cortisone, there may be a very good reason for it. I would discuss that with your doctor. See what happens should you get exposed to the corona. But as I said, it is not your friend. It's not what you want to fight that particular viral infection. It will weaken your immune system and your ability to fight it. So you need to boost it through another avenue.
Now, I've got a question here for you, Philippe.
Yeah.
Joe Gilbert has asked, or he says, "You are wrong, Philippe. Colloidal silver kills all known viruses. Is that correct?"
Colloidal silver is actually, no, it doesn't. Colloidal silver is an outstanding little remedy, and it is strongly antibacterial. It has certain anti-viral properties, but colloidal silver is not going to kill an acute infection, a mature infection with the coronavirus. I have a lot of respect for colloidal silver, as I have for iodine. Iodine also has an effect on strengthening a cell wall to make it very difficult for a virus to penetrate it. It's vitamin C. Colloidal silver is not a cure for the corona, but it will help you fight opportunistic infections, which may superimpose over the viral infection. It is an outstanding remedy. It's an outstanding remedy, but it will not kill the virus. I wish it did. It doesn't.
No,
but
just
yes, it has a very different role.
Just
that helps.
Just talking about that, Philippe, is colloidal silver then perhaps something that people should have in their cupboard, so that
survival kit?
A survival kit,
yes.
So they take that before the virus
Absolutely.
comes. Yeah, okay. Well, there you go, Joe. So that's like a 50-50, but yeah, good point you raised there. Now, I've got another question for you, Philippe. Can the coronavirus lay dormant and rear out its ugly head when winter comes in the southern hemisphere?
Have a look at the. Let's have a look at the problem, for example, that we had with Ebola. One of the things that was not understood, and to this day, I've actually done quite a bit of work with Ebola years and years and years ago. One of the things that reared its head was, why does Ebola all of a sudden activate? And why does it hibernate? Why does it all of a sudden switch off? It's there, but it's not active. We don't. That is one of the things we do not understand. These viruses that are going around and have been going around since the 60s mutate into different bits. Some are fairly harmless, others not, and they target different organisms. MERS basically started off in the Middle East as a camel-borne virus until it converted to humans as a target. Any virus can lay dormant and present again, and we do not know why, and it may be slightly different. It will have mutated, but we can't wish them away. They are very ancient, they're very old organisms. They're one of the first probably to ever populate the world when there were no primates, no fish. It's an old ancient organism. You cannot wish it away. And they keep popping up under a different guise. If you have a look, there have been 7 different mutations since the early 60s of this particular one, and the corona is the last one in line. And they keep popping up every couple of years. So yes, it can lie dormant and surface under a different guise. A worse one or a lesser one, we don't know. We haven't seen Ebola, and then all of a sudden it comes up. One of my friends in '96, she was a nursing sister, Merwe. She was a nursing sister and rode on an ambulance to Lanseria to fetch a doctor who was flown in by air ambulance from Central Africa. And he was an Ebola, acquired Ebola patient. She caught it on the ambulance and she died. He survived. He was the first Ebola victim in South Africa. We still think of her with the greatest respect, and we still miss her, those who knew her. Ebola basically destroys every single cell you have. You name it. Blood cells, muscle cells, eyes, lungs, skin, muscle. Nothing is excluded. It invades it and it explodes it. It blows it apart. Your intestinal system gets ripped apart. There is nothing, not a single cell that is not a target of Ebola. And it all of a sudden disappeared. And now it has resurfaced again. And it is odd, as I said before, these are virae which actually kill the host. That's not natural in nature, but they do. The corona opens the route to the lungs, and that is what kills you. Yeah, your inability to breathe, your inability to supply oxygen, and then if that's poorly managed, respirators get some.
You drown essentially, right? You drown essentially.
Yes, you do. Yeah.
Now, just on this Ebola question, Philippe, Joe, who brought up colloidal silver, has said Ebola has just mutated. The newest virus outbreak news just out, Lassa virus fever. I don't know what that means, but do you know about that?
I don't know about it. Can't help you there.
But that's quite possible.
A virus does evolve. It does adapt. The best. It is as if they're nearly an intelligent organism.
Yeah.
They adapt. They change. It's a very dangerous little organism. Then you need to basically fortify yourself and be one of those people in the room who does not get the viral infection when everybody else does.
That's the number one thing you've got to do is basically quarantine yourself from the virus.
Yes, and your area as best you can. The more of a buffer you have between yourself and others, and that is others in your home versus your neighbors versus another street versus another suburb. The more you can compartmentalize it and protect it and keep infected people out, the better your chances are. The nice thing is the best thing about it is it's not an indefinite infection. They're generally fairly short-lived. They burn themselves out. We don't know why, but I'm glad they do. But during that time, you need to protect yourself.
Because there's no cure.
There is no cure.
Okay, I mean that is probably the critical statement about a virus, is that if you get the virus, you've just got to ride it out. There's no cure.
Well, this one, it's severe. The SARS is severe acute respiratory distress syndrome, because of the inflammation it causes, and it involves the whole lung, both lungs, the whole lot, everything. It's not a section of the lung that is affected; it's the whole thing. And people get hypoxia. Yeah, they get a shortage of oxygen.
Pneumonia.
You get proteinaceous liquid, which is called proteinaceous liquid. And as Gerhardt said, technically speaking, you drown. You need to be. They basically need to get the fluid out. Suction equipment, if there isn't any, or if it's not well managed, or if there is no infection control, sepsis, no infection control, you're even worse off. It is the SARS, it is the respiratory problem that's going to kill you. And that is a direct result of the viral infection. It causes that inflammation. And that inflammation of the tissues makes it swell. You get this proteinaceous liquid story. The alveoli get distressed. Yeah, those little bubbles, those little grapes that help you get oxygen.
Right.
They get distressed, and that ultimately will kill you, or for some reason you survive it. The problem is that very few people who survive SARS, that syndrome, are ever the same again. They normally have to go through life compromised. The number of people who and are back to normal, the way they were before they got sick, is a tiny percentage. If you survive it, you are marked. You have a problem.
Right. Now, are there any other questions people would like to put to Gerhardt and to Philippe? Now's your time. I'm watching the side chat here. We've answered a few questions, I know, but please just feel free to put them up there. Is there something you'd like to say, Gerhardt?
Yeah, while we're waiting for something, if there's some questions, I first want to, before I talk to I saw in the side chat people said they talked about La Y86. It's a China channel. There's another guy called Serpent ZA as well. I just want to make it clear, yeah, the guys made videos about China, but they live in United States now. And there's some reasons they left, because they were not really for China. So don't always believe what you see on these channels. I just want to throw it out there. Uncle Scott, for you, I want to say, yeah, in the side chat while Dr. Philippe was busy speaking, I was asking the people a question, where I asked the people, do they want to see the city, my city? So I make Uncle Scott the, I give you this idea now.
Right.
Maybe we can arrange a live stream later in the week or whenever. I know I'm a busy man, but whenever you have time, then I'll take my mobile phone and I'll patch myself up with all my gear and stuff and goggles and so on and so forth, and I will go into the streets and maybe show you guys how my city looked like. So we can maybe arrange something like that, and people in the side chat were actually very, very happy to see. So for Loving Life channel, I will definitely do it for Uncle Scott's viewers. If you agree, we can arrange a live stream. Dr. Philippe is in. Well, so yeah, definitely we can arrange that.
Fantastic. I think that's a great idea. Now, what's your time right now, Gerhardt?
Uncle Scott, it is 3:30 in the morning here in China.
Okay, so we'll have to do that basically when South Africa's asleep. So we might just do it.
Well, yeah, we can actually do it like we can record a video, and Wim can just maybe post it on your channel if you want.
I've got another idea. How about we do it in the sort of like the afternoon, one day on the weekend, which will be sort of like morning time in South Africa.
That's normally when I do my stream, so I will sit one out and I will do one for Wim, no problem. That well, Dr. Philippe can see and Wim can see and everyone can see.
We'll talk about this after the show, but that's a fabulous idea, worries. And let's do that. Now, Philippe, over to you.
Yeah. My recommendation is that there are all these people who say that they want to organize themselves. Now is actually the time to do it. And this is not the sort of crazy pepper group mentality, at all. This is basically following the model that has proven as successful as it can be in China. But instead of the authorities doing it, because there aren't any capable or competent or sufficient or well-equipped to do it, people are going to have to do it themselves. And to get that model in place is now. Get to know your neighbors. If there is a group, a watch, get involved with them. Discuss what is going to happen should it break out and how you are going to compartmentalize where you live. Organize maybe a central water supply, if that is possible, of potable water in case that breaks down. That has already broken down a couple of times. When you're not supposed to have any E. coli in water, not one in a count. E. coli in drinking water in South Africa has already appeared more than once. You don't want that stuff. You need to get a clean, potable water supply. What are you going to do about it? Can you organize with like-minded, sensible neighbors to ride it out, to help each other and protect yourselves from getting infected? You're going to have to do it. Get the prepping thing, get the food supply, get supplies of your average first aid kit, because once you get out there and you've got people wandering around and not controlled, you leave yourself open to infection. Don't do it. And I totally agree with Gerhardt that having a supply of a month or 6 weeks, not only for the corona story that we have now, but should the wheels come off with a pending junking of South Africa and bad consequences for the country and maybe reprisals or reactions, you're going to have the same thing. You need to compartmentalize and defend yourselves, defend your home, defend yourself, defend your home, defend your neighbors, and ride it out. It's not about starting a private army. It's about getting a tiny little bubble where you can live safely, both in terms of health as well as physical security. Because if this corona thing does break through, you may need both.
Now, just on that particular point, Philippe, we're talking about quarantining yourself from exposure to the virus. Now, there are some huge number of farms in South Africa which would be totally quarantined. And, you know, if there are farmers who are listening or watching this live stream, and if they're interested in, you know, getting a community together around their farm, if the first cases of the virus appear, that's something which could be an option for people to get themselves out of harm's way. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know if farmers will be wild keen to accept people who have a very dangerous infectious disease about to break through or not, because they don't know, and put their own families and themselves at risk. Plus, if you get a movement going and you get a lot of people moving to those farms, some of whom might be infected, you're actually defeating the purpose.
Yeah.
You can answer for yourself, you can answer for yourself, you can answer for your family to a degree. And even that is tenuous. My advice would be to stay within your walls. Do not go out. You don't know what you're going to run into with people who need what you have. If suppliers, people buy things from shops, the drivers who have delivered those things to outlying farm stores and villages where people buy things, they may be infected. Because if you cannot compartmentalize, you cannot shut down roads, you cannot shut down cities, you cannot shut down warehouses. They're going to be moving everywhere, and you have no idea what came from where with what. You don't know. But you do know what you have in your own home, and you do know what your supplies are, and that you can open packets because they're safe to touch. If things come to a place near you, you can just close your doors and stay indoors. You have no idea who you're going. You're basically creating an aeroplane environment. You don't know who boards that plane. You don't know who was on site at the airport itself, who was coughing all over the rollator, hand grips, who was on the plane with you. You have no idea who is on that farm with you. As a farmer, I wouldn't be wild keen on it, and as a visitor, I wouldn't be wild keen on it either, because I can't vouch for any of them. Again, the farmer might well shut the gates as well and protect his family. But unless he knows that you are not that you're not a carrier, that you're not infected, you can't. He will put himself at risk, and everybody on the farm.
Now, are you suggesting that the horse is already bolted in South Africa because there might be people who've got the coronavirus who might be walking around Johannesburg and places like that and, you know, infecting others, but it just hasn't presented itself yet?
It is possible. One of the things that is really of interest is, for example, in Germany, they only had about 4 people who were suspected. Yeah, as infected. In the States, you only have a handful, maybe 5-10 people tops. In Canada, you only had a tiny percentage of people that were identified with the coronavirus. Mm-hmm. The viral load that is required to make people very ill. Yes, there were people who carried it in other countries, but those numbers were tiny, and they were dealt with. by competent authorities. The main thrust of what is happening is in China, and they kept it there. Those few who are outside China are numerically insignificant, really, as a percentage. As a statistical number, they're insignificant. That may change. But the Chinese authorities have done everything they can to actually limit it and keep it within their own walls and then deal with it.
Right.
They've done a very good job. I have no idea how many flights from China entered South Africa. I have no idea how many people who were in hotspots entered South Africa via another destination. It's guesswork. With a bit of luck, the number that is in there is so small that it matches, say, what is happening in Germany and France. France, there were only 3. It's tiny.
Yeah.
I don't think we've got any in the UK at the moment. There was somebody who was suspected. I don't think that was confirmed. Outside China, it is manageable so far, but should it break out and with all the ingredients that we have in South Africa, the lack of health services, the lack of personnel, the lack of equipment, with a population that is compromised as it is, that is a perfect storm. That is an absolutely perfect storm. If it is looking for a very generous home, I would pick South Africa.
Yeah. Now, I've got a question here from Borgel. He says, question for the doc. That must be you, Philippe.
Center.
What happens if this virus has 2 phases? 2 its genes, one part gives pneumonia, the dormant part is triggered. This is what they... I don't really get the whole question, but that's what he's asking.
Basically, this particular virus, there are viri which target, for example, a liver or the nervous system. This particular virus targets lungs. That's what it does. That's where it causes its main influence, and its inflammatory action is in lungs, the total lung structures. If it mutates and starts attacking other stuff, who knows? It hasn't yet. But mutation is the hallmark of a virus. That's why they're so hard to track down and deal with.
Right.
So it is not impossible, but it hasn't yet.
Okay.
We now have human transmission. In the beginning, it was animal to human transmission. It adapted. It changed. Mutated. It adapted. It can go any way at all, and it can all of a sudden just stop. Like Ebola, it just stops. We have no idea why it does that, when it can actually continue and target other people, target more victims, and it just stops. We have no idea what causes it.
Okay. Now,
so this question is not really way out. It is a possibility, but we haven't seen it yet.
Now, what I'd like to do now, because we've been talking for nearly 2 hours, I'd like to ask each of you, what is your best advice you can give to people living in South Africa who are unsure about what to do should the coronavirus spread throughout South Africa? I'll start off with you, Gerhardt. You tell us what's your best advice on this.
My best advice is, guys, don't take it lightly. don't take this thing lightly. Before I give my full answer, look, you need to understand here very clearly that you are fighting an invisible enemy. You don't know who's carrying this virus. Don't underestimate this thing, and don't take it lightly. Uncle Scott, the best advice, I will say, guys, like Dr. Philippe said, I think I 100% agree with what he said earlier. Start boosting your immune systems right now. Start by trying to get as much vitamin C's and all that kind of stuff that Dr. Philippe mentioned in your systems. Get a lot of face masks for yourself before it goes south. like what happened here in China when the face masks ran out. But just bear in mind, you need the face mask, you need the eye gear, like any goggle to protect your eyes, and get yourself these disposable plastic hand gloves that you can keep by your side. I will recommend keep them. Get it now. That is my advice. Get it now. And also, just prepare for getting into a cycle of quarantine in your home. For example, go sleep at the same time, wake up at the same time, do your fitness during the day, your regular exercises, and get yourself mentally prepared for if you are quarantined in a house for a month. It doesn't sound that crazy, but I'm going through it right now, and I want to tell you guys it's not as easy as what you guys think it is. Some people make jokes and say, yeah, you're off, you have holidays, but I'll rather be on my normal schedule with extra work than going through this. I can make you that promise. So yeah, that's my my 2 cents, Uncle Scott. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Now, Philippe, same question to you. What's your advice to people?
I agree with what Gerhardt said. Now is the time, if any, to get as healthy, and that goes for all the members of your family. Get enough sleep. Get some exercise, get enough sleep, be the best you can be. Listening to Gerhardt as well with his prepping and his supplies, that is critical. No one is going to feed you. No one is going to help you if you are corralled in your home, riding it out, and there is no food. You can't knock on any door. It's you and your family, and that is it. If at all possible, before the trouble starts, if you can organize with a few people that you know and trust, and all bring the necessary, yeah, if you have a nursing sister who is a neighbor or lives in the area, or a doctor or a physio, any health professional, try and build a community that can actually do what the Chinese authorities are doing in China, which is organize yourselves with a number of skills to police your area, protect your area, keep your area healthy, support, because it's only supportive treatment that is going to work. And your hospitals are going to be overwhelmed, and it may not be a very good place to be with everything that's going on. You may have to do what you can in your home. Yeah, and organize yourselves, be ready. Don't let it surprise you. Be ready. If it passes South Africa by, I'll be very pleased. I don't wish ill on anybody. Black, white, Indian, doesn't make any difference to me.
Correct.
I don't want you to suffer from this. You have an added problem there, which is your power supply. So if the power supply goes down and there is no alternative power supply to drive those mechanical respirators such as they are, and the facilities in hospitals, they are a very bad place to be. You've got that problem already. Buy food that can be stored dry. Beans, rice, as Gerhardt says, tins are very good. Because they keep. So does beans, so does rice. Get water, get a supply of supplements, health supplements, good health supplements, to be what you can be. It's work out what you buy during the month and get an extra supply of that. So if you should need it, you're going to be okay for that month. Life continues, but within your own walls. Don't rely on your freezer. Don't rely on your fridge, because you may have to be without them. Yeah, and the dry stuff and the water that you store to constitute food is going to be what you need to help you. And again, as I said, if you can organize yourselves, with sensible people, not warriors, sensible people, you will sleep a lot better if you have a watch system going. Should, for example, things break down and your security company can't assist you. Those are considerations we don't have here in the UK and in China, but you do in South Africa, and you're on your own. Should you need medical help, don't count on ambulances. They may not be there, they may not be available, and if they are available, where are they going to take you? Yeah, you need one respirator per patient. 1,000 patients is 1,000 respirators. Where are they? And if they're not available, you're not going to get them, and then you're on your own. You either survive it or you don't. Your ability to survive a serious infection like that, and inflammation, is your immune system and your innate health quality. That is what I would suggest.
Right.
Be self-sufficient in all respects.
Right. Look, I really appreciate you guys coming on. I have got a couple more questions. Maria's asked, do you think this is a biochemical weapon that's been released? Because there's talk about some facility in Canada that was compromised and some Chinese people were thrown out of the facility because apparently they were sending some of this sort of stuff back to China.
Yeah, I can answer that question if I may. Uncle
Go ahead,
Scott.
yeah.
Okay, so it's 100% confirmed. She's 100% right. In Wuhan City, it's there are these labs. There was rumors about this, and I'm not saying this just because I'm staying in China, but they acted real fast, and it's official that they actually are looking for the owner of basically the meat market, this fresh meat market where everything started, because the guy is on the run. Okay, so yeah, it's 100% confirmed that it's not unpurposely done or a leak or anything bad towards China. It was 100% a virus that broke out in this meat market, so that I can confirm with surety. Yeah, but it is true, there are these labs in Wuhan City, and many people went crazy about it, especially here in China. But from Chinese, look, this is all from Chinese media that I'm telling you guys now, what's confirmed over here. It's 100% from that meat market, and people know it. So, yeah, the Chinese people, you must just remember, are scared of losing face. And this whole thing is a bad thing on China, regarding hygiene and stuff like that. So, obviously, there was a lot of rumors being spread and so on, but no, it's 100% confirmed it was mistakes by humans, you know, eating wrong meats, if you will.
Now, I actually saw some video footage of that meat market, which I put on my channel just a couple of days ago, and they were offering everything from python to bats to dogs. I mean, they had everything there. Rats. It was just extraordinary. Bats. Yeah. Sorry, Philippe, over to you.
Yeah, snakes have been eaten in Asia for centuries and centuries. There have been every year there's a particular very short season where they decapitate, where they actually slice the cranium of a monkey and eat the brains as a specialty. But that's not necessarily only a Chinese thing. I mean, in Europe, we eat organs of animals. We eat snails. We eat some very odd stuff. We eat crustaceans, which, for example, Jewish people or Muslims won't eat. Crayfish, crabs. We eat stuff that they find very unusual. We have an issue when people eat horse meat because we like horses. We have an issue when people eat dog meat because we like dogs as pets. We have a problem when people eat cats because we have cats as pets. But those criteria are a cultural issue that is peculiar to us. It doesn't mean that eating things that we would not eat here is wrong or dangerous. We had very serious issues here when so-called beef actually contained horse meat that was imported from the Eastern European countries, and it was contaminated, and it caused huge problems. We have issues here such as mad cow disease, which is a neurologic target. Meat and proteins can harbor bugs and viruses, and they do. Look at foot and mouth disease. Look at mad cow disease. It's I think unfair and unrealistic to criticize China for their choice of foods. They're a different culture, and it doesn't make them evil or objectionable. They just have their traditions of food, and we have ours.
Totally
and we eat some pretty unusual stuff that other people look at and think, "How can you? How do you do it?" I think we must go easy on what is available. When it comes to using animals, there's a lot of comment on that. But if you look at heart valves and eye components, we harvest them from pigs. We use animals medicinally. So do Chinese people. They have a different way of doing it. So do other Asian peoples. They have a medicinal, they attribute medicinal qualities to certain animals and certain types of food. We do the same. We use animals for medicinal purposes all the time. We eat very unusual stuff that other cultures that live among us will not touch. And I think if something goes wrong, we've had that stuff with the outbreak with horse meat that was contaminated. We really should look at ourselves as well. Things can go wrong and do go wrong, and in this case, it went wrong very badly. But it went wrong for them a lot worse than it has gone wrong for us so far. I know what the comments are when you see porcupines and rats and stuff. You can actually eat cane rats as a delicacy in Natal. It's offered as a specialty food. When you tell people here that you can buy rats in a specialty restaurant, cane rats, they wonder what you're talking about. I think we should be very tolerant and accepting of the mores, the healthy, decent conduct that other people consider healthy, decent, not sort of impart our own stamp on it.
I have to share with you what Talita wrote, and Talita, congrats on being our latest moderator on the live stream. Talita says, "What have the Chinese got as pets?" Because they seem to eat everything.
Dogs, horses, same as us.
Gerhardt, over to you.
Yeah, that is a really funny question. Hey, I'm going to be honest, staying in China for 5 years already, I can tell you that Chinese people are against eating dog, actually, more than what you guys think. This kind of stuff only happens in certain parts of areas, like Dr. Philippe said, it's more than a delicacy thing for some people. But the vast majority of Chinese people are really pet-loving human beings. So I totally want to add on to him where he said, Chinese people are stereotyped really quickly and in the wrong way. But to answer your question, you won't believe this, I'm going to be honest now, but the main pet Chinese people have is dogs. And it's called a teddy dog. It's like a poodle, but it's a brown poodle. So that is their main pet. It looks like a chocolate poodle. So imagine yourself, your grandma, normally grandmas have this lap poodles on their laps. Chinese people, and the biggest bodybuilder Chinese people also, men, have these little dogs as pets, and it's a chocolate color. It's called a teddy here in China. And the second biggest one is a turtle.
Oh, turtle. I love turtles.
Yeah, so that's the second biggest pet animal here in China. Like facts, I'm talking facts now.
Yeah. I used to have a turtle when I was a kid.
Yeah, I've got 3 at the moment, so by the way. I've got three turtles, 3 birds, and 1 teddy, and 1 baby, and 1
you got the works.
crazy, insane wife sometimes. But she's beautiful and I love her.
Yeah. Now, Philippe, how are your...
Here in the UK, you can buy turtle soup.
That's true. You get them live in supermarkets. You can buy the turtle there, but it's a different kind of turtle.
Yeah.
And they will slaughter the turtle in the supermarket and you can get it. And I'm talking like spa-like supermarkets.
Wow.
So it's not like a Wuhan fresh meat supermarket, yeah. But you do get them.
Now, Philippe, how are your cats, talking about pets? That grumpy old one.
My Scottish wildcat is still Scottish and wild. And Thumper is sort of holed up because we had a little bit of snow here.
Yeah.
For once, we actually had a very warm winter, but we had snow here last night and the night before. So he's holed up and happy. And then old Shredder, he's nearly 18 now. The Yorkie that came from South Africa. He is still shredding. He's doing his thing with a single tooth. He's got 1 tooth. He's not scared to use it. And,
You call it 1 tooth. All right.
Well, we don't slap a sandwich. We don't slap a slice of bread on the one side and one on the other one. And a hot dog.
Guys, I have to say it's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you. I think we've covered pretty well everything to do with the coronavirus. I'll just speak to you first, Gerhardt. Gerhardt, look, thank you so much for your time. I know this is a very anxious time you're living in China.
You bet, sir.
Obviously, we'll support you how we can through this channel. And look, we'll try and organize something this weekend. For an afternoon, sort of like 5 or 6 p.m. in the afternoon, where you can walk out. That'll be about 10 a.m. or 9 a.m. South African time, just so people know that we'll be doing a live stream, and you're going to walk out and show people what it's actually like, because that'll give them
what I will do is I will try go buy something. We can make a small little goal for me. Go try and get yourself some noodles, and I will go to some shops and try and get myself noodles, and I'll take you guys with me.
Fantastic. That'll be absolutely brilliant. Now, Philippe, once again, thank you so much for your input.
Uncle Scott, sorry, before you sign off, can I just say thank you so much for having me on. It was a big honor being on your show, and to all your viewers, thanks guys for listening to what I have to say. Dr. Philippe, such an honor sitting in your presence, sir. I just want to sign off by saying this. Guys, I've been in China for 5 years and I've been through an earthquake here in China. I've been through surgery here in China. I've been through a lot here in China. But there's nothing like what I'm going through right now. So I just want to tell you guys, please, don't take this thing lightly. A virus is something that I've never imagined in my life I'm going to experience and see. So, yeah. Anyway, I just want to make it clear, don't take this lightly. This is a serious thing. This is seriously not fun. So, yeah, stay safe out there, guys. Uncle Scott, thank you so much. Guys, goodbye.
Take care, Gerhardt. Now, Philippe, over to you. I just want to say to you, thank you so much for your time. I mean, I know how busy you are. You're a top medical practitioner in the UK, and for you to take this time off to help people learn about what a virus is and how best to keep themselves safe, it's really appreciated.
It's a pleasure. I try to stay away from medical lectures because there is a lot you can say and it basically would make very little sense to most. I try to keep it very basic. But Gerhardt, you have a friend here in Bonnie, Scotland, and my thoughts are with you and your family. And I hope that you weather the storm 100% and that nothing nasty will befall you guys. My thoughts are with you, and you guys have a friend in Scotland.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
And Philippe, you can actually follow Gerhardt's journey because his YouTube channel is linked below this video, so you can just click on that, subscribe, and follow what he's up to. All right, now to those who are watching the video, thank you so much for being part of the live stream. We've had up to well over 300 people watching it, parts of the video. This is going to be a record that will stay on the main Loving Life channel, and I think you'll find it very, very useful to refer people to, because it really gives you the perspective about what is a virus, understanding how to respond to a virus, what actions to take, prepping, all these sort of things. So please share this live stream video widely amongst your community, Facebook, Twitter, wherever. There's some really important information on here. All right, guys, with that, I'm going to say take care, be safe, and let's hope that the coronavirus does not come to South Africa. But in the meantime, please, as these guys have been saying, prep. Just prep. Just think of that. Prep, prep, prep. It's too late to prep when it actually gets there. Now's the time. All right, I'm going to shut off the live stream now. Take care, guys. Bye for now.
Thank you.